Hello and welcome to the studio. I'm Mark Chillingworth, and in this discussion we're discussing the topic of industrial cyber strategies for the CISO. Venkat, if I may, I'd like to start with you. What features must operational technologies, and perhaps we should maybe quickly sort of within your answer describe those operational technologies that non-industrial watchers will be dealing with. What features must those operational technologies have in a cyber strategy, and why?
So the way I think I look at it from a strategy point of view, the first thing to look at is how the governance system's working, because there's a lot of stakeholders involved in the OT. It is not a typical security domain. It also involves the IT, operational technology, engineering, and then the other management functions, including CFO. So first is the important part as to how do we set up the governance. Second is look at what are the priorities for the OT. Generally, in the IT side, any CSOs would know that data availability and data integrity is the critical part, but on the OT side, it's more to do with the safety and availability aspects.
It's very much at the forefront of the mind of any cybersecurity strategy. And in fact, when we look at a cyber strategy from a CISO point of view, pretty much regardless of whatever industry you're in, I would advise that you look at them from a four-domain perspective. Clearly, IT is high priority. Product security will always be at the forefront of any cyber strategy as well. Industrial or OT cybersecurity, and people. And the CISO's role is very much changing to encompass all of those aspects of security across the activity.
OT is incredibly important. And as a CISO and a CIO as well, it's important that we reposition it for the important technology stack that it is. Because oftentimes people relegate it to it's air-gapped, it's old enough where it's secure by default. We're repositioning that to say this is an incredibly important part of how we solve the energy trilemma. So that's getting the right energy to the right customer at the right price. And a lot of that is based on operational technology.
You mentioned that increased use of sensors, IoT, etc. How are you analyzing and detecting threats there? Because these do have the potential to open a gateway to issues in your organization and causing larger challenges and threats to you.
Right. So as that evolution continues, we have to make sure we have the security foundations in place. So we apply the Purdue model to make sure that our assets are correctly segmented, so they are secure and they have the ability to operate in a secure and seamless way.
I completely agree. The world of OT was always it was special. It was different. You don't touch it. These IT people coming in and telling us what we should do. Those worlds are coming much closer together. I mean, a lot of the OT industrial environments now are certainly interconnected to the cloud. More data analytics is coming in. If I look at future innovation, you can bring in things like digital twins to improve the efficiency of the OT environments. Everything's coming back to data backends. Even more IoT enabled in the facilities as well, potentially. In some other places, I've seen augmented reality that's being used.
So, Chander, we're clearly seeing that the number of attack surfaces is increasing.
Yep.
Does that therefore, are there numbers? Are we seeing the number of cyber attacks increase? And can you give us any context on that?
Yes, I mean, they are increasing. I mean, we heard what happened to Johnson Control a week back. And OT security, as both Allan and Kevin said, is a different scale of problem we need to address, because every industry has a different OT environment. What happens in the oil and gas in the process industry does not happen in the transportation industry. So the knowledge of the industry vertical is important when we lay down the OT security and how the governance will happen. And we are facing and working in the world where people who are planning to hack or attack the system are very well connected.
First and foremost thing to say is that for any security team, our job is to enable the business and to enable the business to do what it needs to do securely. So I have this philosophy of security by default. And whenever new technologies are being introduced into the landscape, whether it's IT, whether it's OT, we always need to start with a risk assessment. That means that the cybersecurity teams need to be accessible, need to learn to explain in real terms and with real examples the threat landscape.
Our conversations have moved on from threats and defects to how do you unlock value, how do you maintain compliance, but then how do you recognize this IT estate from an endpoint perspective, oftentimes is as big as the IT estate.
Also, I'm seeing a lot of improvement in the way things are moving, where the CISO are becoming financially savvy that, yes, we have done it, we covered these losses. There are certain unexpected losses that we need to have a buffer to respond to these kind of large ransomware incidents. So I think I see a trend of the CIOs, CISOs moving into more financially savvy and getting these links connected to these top line and bottom line. In my view, I see this trend is slowly increasing.
On the OT side, I believe more forums of organizations coming together and sharing their thought process would be key. And that's something which I think are happening now, and we have many events happening where we are sharing how people are implementing the OT technologies and more in detail, not at a surface level, but more getting down and how you're implementing and learning from those best practices. And that is something which we are also bringing. We are bringing in the best practices of OT from transportation industry to an IP industry to an process industry. Each industry at a fundamental level on the southbound is different. On the northbound, they are all IT cloud environment, but southbound is very different. So we are sharing those as a contributing partner into the industry.